Beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of Uncovering Your Inner Power. I'm your host, Jill Ripley, and today I'm joined by Bianca Riemer, who brings a really unique perspective, bridging high level corporate leadership with deep inner work. She began her career as a top ranked sales analyst at Morgan Stanley and now advises CEOs, CFOs, and senior leaders navigating high pressure environments and major transitions. What makes her work stand out is her focus on nervous system regulation as a performance tool, along with practices like meditation, pranic healing, helping leaders to show up with clarity, presence, and trust. Bianca, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jill.
You had a very high level career in finance. What was the turning point that led you from that world into healing work?
Yeah, so the turning point really was when I got back from maternity leave after having my second child, and I'd lost both of my parents at the same time as losing my children. And before that point, um, I was always very focused on making money, creating financial stability for my family. But when my parents passed away, I realized that life is short and you got to make the best out of what you have right now. And also, I felt that what I'd learned in corporate, the nervous system regulation work that I learned in corporate, that helped me become a top ranked analyst at Morgan Stanley. If my parents had had access to that, who knows, they may still be around. So I didn't want to have anybody else have the same fate as, my parents who never met their grandchildren or my children who never met their grandparents. So I wanted to do something to help other people based on the incredible results that I'd had with the techniques that I learned.
So typically in the corporate world, we don't hear of that kind of tools being offered up. How did you learn that and put it into practice in your business environment?
Yeah, so that was a long and painful journey. So when I started working at Morgan Stanley, I was constantly stressed. I couldn't sleep during the week, and then I passed out on the weekend and slept all weekend. I even once slept through an entire wedding when we went away, and I was so tired. I went to bed, and then I never woke up to get to the wedding. So I also had aches and pains all over my body. And the good thing about an investment banks is that you never have to leave the building to sort your life out. So the doctor is in house, you just give them a quick ring and they'll see you almost immediately. So I went to see the doctor quite frequently with aches and pains and tiredness, fatigue, and all those things. And they would do the checkup and then they'd tell me, well, there's really nothing wrong with you. You are just stressed. So, in other words, the way I heard it at the time was, oh, we can't help you. You just got to get on with it or change your job. Now, I didn't want to change my job because I really loved it. So I went and tried everything under the sun to help me. So I tried acupuncture, Reiki, hypnotherapy, different types of coaching and counseling. And then I put something together that helped me. So I also trained as a yoga instructor at the time, and I learned lots of, because that sort of resonated at the time, the yoga and the breathing. And one super simple but mega helpful thing that my health coach that I worked with at the time told me is don't eat your food in front of a screen. Move away from the screen, because the screen stresses you out and then you don't digest your food very well, because I had lots of digestive issues at the time. And she said, just take 10, 20 minutes to just have a meal somewhere. And that's what I did. And it just reset my entire system. I was so relaxed when I ate the food. I didn't have the bloating and the digestive discomfort afterwards. So that on its own made a huge difference. As well, my energy levels went up and I didn't have to spend so much time on the weekend trying to recover anymore. So that is how I gradually discovered that you don't just have to endure all the stresses of your work environment. There's actually very simple things that you can do to massively boost your performance as a result.
I love that you mentioned the eating in front of the screen because I also was in the corporate world. I was in insurance, and a lot of women, because in insurance, I mean, not that it's all women, but it's a high majority of women. And I would see a lot of the women in my company eat at the computer while they were doing their work, even though it was
Mm.
their scheduled lunchtime. So they felt that they needed to give up their own lunch time in order to keep up with the demand of corporate life.
Yes, and I also used to have that thinking, and a lot of people are kind of trapped in that thinking. You think that by working longer, I will automatically be more productive. But if you don't recharge, you're going to be operating in battery saving mode. Now, battery saving mode, when my phone goes on battery saving mode, everything is slower. Everything takes longer. So, in the corporate world, if we don't take breaks and recharge and trying to do 10,000 things at the same time, it's as if I'm having my phone with all the apps open. Everything takes so much longer. Whereas if I give my phone a break, close down all the apps, restart one app new, then that app is going to be performing at 100%. So
Right.
humans are no different. You need to take breaks. And I mean, I took a 20-minute break and the resultant increased productivity is just phenomenal.
I agree with that. And the other thing I think is the people who take their lunch at their desk and they make the quotas that the corporate is putting up for them, they're skewing the data because they're making corporate think that people can get all this done in this amount of time because they're doing it behind the scenes. They're actually robbing themselves of their downtime. But corporate thinks, hey, this person can get this done because they're doing it. But they don't, corporate doesn't see them sitting at their desk eating their lunch. They only see the numbers. So I really have always felt, and I never ate at my desk. I
Mm,
really always felt that you're not doing your peers any service by eating at your desk and skewing the numbers.
mm, absolutely. You're actually damaging your own productivity long term.
I
I mean,
agree with that.
it may look a certain way. It may look like, oh, she's always at her desk doing work. But actually, how productive is the time that you're spending at your desk? So I had one colleague, he was never at his desk. He was always walking around talking to people. But then when he was at his desk, he'd just be super productive. And he was actually one of the most productive people in the department. Why? Because the time that he spent at his desk was deep thinking during time. The rest is what he needed to manage his energy because he was an extrovert. He needed to talk to people to keep his energy levels high. So knowing where you get your energy from, what energizes you, can actually be super, super useful in managing your productivity as well. But sitting at your desk looking busy is not necessarily the most productive way of being effective at work.
I agree with that. And I like what you said about being on power save mode because I often liken our bodies are like a battery, right? A rechargeable battery. And everything that we do, whether it is positive or negative, has an effect on that battery. So in the morning, I start my day with my energy practices, my gratitudes, my meditations, whatever I do to energize myself. And I fill up the battery. And then everything that occurs in your day eats a little bit away at that battery and some things more than others. You know, positive things take a little bit from your battery and stressful things drain you. And so at some point, if you find something that's really draining you during the day, you need to take that time to recharge and build your stores back up, whether it's a walk outside or a brief meditation or whatever to bring that energy up. I think that's so important. And when people start to practice that, they'll get to see, like you said, the impact in their productivity.
Absolutely.
Now, you work with executives under intense pressure. What are you seeing most often when it comes to stress, burnout, or emotional regulation?
Yes, so the most common problem that we encounter is the constant firefighting. So there's always something that's broken that needs fixing right now. And that tends to eat up a lot of time and energy from the executives, basically stealing time from the thinking time, the strategic thinking that you really need to do at a senior leadership level. And that then, the fact that you don't spend your time where you should be spending it, i.e., the strategy side of your job, and you're constantly firefighting, that's extremely stressful because you're not getting your real job done. It's because of all the little firefighting incidents where you have to go and put out the fire. So when executives come to me, the first thing that we work on is resetting their nervous system, getting them out of firefighting mode, taking a helicopter view of what's actually happening in the business and in their life, and then doing the strategic thinking together so that they can spend their time what's actually most productive and not necessarily respond to the urgent everyday needs that they're being hit with on a daily basis. And the one technique that's most useful for them is to have a 10 to 15 minute pranic healing session at the beginning of our coaching session, which really fast resets the nervous system so that we don't even have to talk about the firefighting stuff that tends to eat up a lot of the coaching sessions. We can go straight into the strategy work, and that's what makes these sessions so powerful.
Can you explain to our listeners who don't understand what pranic healing means? Can you explain what that is?
Yes, absolutely. So pranic healing is a zero-touch, non-invasive energy modality. That's one of the fastest growing modalities now in the world. It's very effective as proven by clinical trials all over the world and also here in the UK. And it's based on the premise that you have an energy body, which is the blueprint for our physical body. Now, any disease, whether that's psychological or physical, shows up in the energy body first. So the energy body is your chakras, which are energy wheels that breathe energy like your lungs breathe air, and the meridians that connect the chakras. When the body is sick or when the person has got psychological problems, there are certain chakras will be congested or depleted, or they will be over or underactivated relative to other chakras. So it shows up in a very specific pattern in the energy body. And pranic healing then removes the dirty, stagnant, congested energy with a very specific hand technique, and then replenishes energy from the environment so that the body then can heal itself much faster than otherwise. And in terms of stress and anxiety, stress is an energy that sits in the body. What we do in pranic healing is we actually remove it and then add relaxing energy to the system. So it's very fast, it's highly effective, and anybody can learn it.
Now, would you say that oftentimes people are trying to put out these fires, and would you say a lot of the fires are not as big as they're envisioned to be?
Yes, absolutely. So because it's urgent and it's now and potentially somebody else is putting pressure on you, it seems a lot bigger than it actually is. It's because your nervous system is already in alert state. So when you're already in alert stage, whatever else is coming at you just seems so big. And at the same time, your thinking capacity is minimal because your system is programmed to run and hide or fight. So your thinking capacity is non-existent at that time. So if you're in alert stage, another problem comes up, then that is the most important thing in your life. 3 hours later, and you're relaxed, you wonder why you did that. So the most valuable activity to do is to regulate your nervous system so that whatever urgent big thing somebody brings you, if your nervous system is regulated, you'll be able to assess the urgent thing in the big scheme of things. And then you realize, oh, actually, yes, it may be urgent, but in the big scheme of things, this is really not that important. And you have the thinking capacity to then decide whether that task is even worth your energy or not.
I like that. Now, why do you think nervous system regulation is such a missing piece in leadership and performance?
The reason why it's such a missing piece is because the way we all grew up is we got told, hey, in this job, you just got to be tough. You just got to be tough. And if you're not tough enough, then you're not cut out for this work. Now, this is the reason why people come to me, is because they have that belief system that they may just not be cut out for the job. And they're actually hiring me to find another job instead of sorting out, their capability to deal with their current everyday life. So we grow up with this belief system that you either cut out for a role or not, or that, you're just not tough enough for what's going on at work. What we haven't learned, at least our generation hasn't learned, is that you can actually change the way that you look at things, and you can change the way that you feel about things by doing the inner work, by doing the nervous system regulation, and by doing the mindset work. Now, children in certain countries in the world, children now actually learn this at school. Children nowadays, they know what a growth mindset is. They know that breathing relaxes you and it can help you think about different perspectives of a problem. But I never learned this at school. I don't know whether you learned this at school, Jill, but it's such a
I
missing
didn't
piece.
learn this at school, and I don't think in the United States that a lot of these kids are learning this at school. It would be so helpful for children to understand how to self-regulate.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So now, have you seen moments with clients that felt almost miraculous? And what was actually happening behind the scenes in those situations?
Yes, so the most miraculous case was a little boy who was at the children's hospital. He was just under 2 years old, and his mom had put a message on Facebook saying, my child is at hospital, he's got an infection, the doctors are going to put him on life support tomorrow. Please send prayers. So, and I met his mom once, that's why we were Facebook friends. So I texted her and said, hey, I do this thing, it's called pranic healing. I can do it remotely. I just need some information from you and a photo of your child, and then I'll do some remote treatments for him to enhance his immune system. And over the course of the next 12 hours, I did 3 or 4 treatments for him. They each lasted about 45 minutes. And the following morning, she sent a message saying, the doctors say a miracle has happened. He no longer needs to be put on life support. He is getting better. So this is one of many examples where it seemed so miraculous. And what's happening in the background is that when somebody is very sick, the body is struggling. That's why in this case, the doctors thought that the body needed to be put on life support. And why is the body struggling? Is because there's too much dirty energy in the child's system. When you take the courses in pranic healing, you learn which external factors impact small children. It's not necessarily the child's genetic setup. It's got to do with the child's environment and the stress levels. And I can give you more examples later. And so when you take the dirty energy out of the child's system, then the body can heal itself a lot faster. And how do I then get comfortable that this is really true? What I know from my own experience is that where I grew up, I was always sick as a child. I had really bad digestive problems. And there was 1 year where I must have missed 60% of school. So I only had 40% attendance. And they let me go on because I was doing okay academically. But when I then moved away, my immune system improved significantly, and I moved to a big city. So usually we would have thought that in big cities you get sick more often, but I actually didn't really get sick that much anymore. Then when my boyfriend at the time came to my parents' house. He got sick in the house. Then a few years later, I had a different boyfriend. He came to my parents' house. He got sick. Both of these young men never got sick. They had amazing immune systems. But for some reason, at my parents' house, people got sick when they came to sleep there. So it's because certain environments carry certain energies, and then it has an impact on your immune system. So the house where I grew up, it must have had the energy impacted people's bodies in a way. My parents died early, and now that I'm a pranic healer, I have a better understanding, a wider understanding of places and the energy in places. So, I mean, Jill, have you ever been to a place where you didn't know why, but it just didn't feel right there and you just wanted to leave? It
Oh,
had
I've
nothing to do,
Of
yeah?
course. Yeah. Well, so I'm also a realtor, right? And one thing that when they do home inspections, they test for something called radon. I don't know if you've ever heard of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an odorless, colorless gas that comes up from the ground. And it can be in your house, but not the house next door. So
Mm.
there's certain, like you said, there's energies that come up in places. Now, the same can be true for positive energy, like when you go, I don't know if you've ever been to Sedona, Arizona, but they have
Mm.
places called the Vortex, right? So I've been there and done the Vortex tour, and I remember going and they had a tour guide and they brought us to several different places that had vortexes. And I remember being in the van and we're driving to one of these vortexes, and all of a sudden the energy in my body, I could feel it like tingly. And I
Mm.
said to the driver, I said, are we getting close to one? And he said, yeah, we were very close. And I'm like, wow.
Wow.
When I got out, I was standing in the vortex area, and it felt like my feet were on fire, but not a burning hot fire. It was an energetic, like a positive white flame. It was the most
Mm.
incredible experience. So there is different energy in different places all over the world.
Mm. Amazing. That sounds like an amazing experience you had there.
It really is. Yeah, if you ever get the
Mm.
chance to go to Sedona, it's a beautiful place.
It's on the bucket list for sure.
Well, there you go. For someone who feels overwhelmed, anxious, or stuck right now, what's one simple way they can begin regulating their nervous system today?
Yes. So the simplest but highly effective way is to do what's called deep abdominal breathing. So when you ask an adult to take a deep breath, most adults will take a deep breath and their chest will come up and their belly might pull in a little bit. But if you ever watch a young child or a pet sleeping, what you notice is that the belly actually comes out as they inhale and then falls back to the spine as they exhale, and the chest hardly moves. So they naturally do deep abdominal breathing. What happens with adults is we hold so much tension in our upper tummy area that it becomes very hard for the diaphragm, which is the muscle that's responsible for breathing, to expand into the belly area. So we're doing chest breathing instead. But when we chest breathe, we only really use the top third to top half of our lung capacity. Whereas if we do deep abdominal breathing, we're using all of our lungs, which means more oxygen in, more toxins out, and also a lot more relaxed because we are releasing the tense energy from our upper tummy area. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, anxious, can't think straight, 6 deep inhales and exhales is usually all it takes to already feel more grounded again. And you have to practice it. It's actually really hard for adults when they first start doing this. If it feels comfortable to do so, you can put a hand on your belly area and then just try to push your belly out as you inhale. And then let it fall back to the spine as you exhale. And you can have a second hand on your chest and just notice whether your chest is still moving after you do that. So this is a deep abdominal breathing usually takes a while to practice, and the best times to practice this is at night when you want to go to sleep, You can lie on your mattress, have your knees pointing up to the ceiling so that your lower back is flush on the mattress, and then just notice what your belly is doing. And you can do this at night when you want to go to sleep. It's very relaxing. It might help you go to sleep easier, or you can do this in the morning first time, because a lot of people, as soon as they wake up, their mind is 180 miles per hour. So the deep abdominal breathing then can help things slow down and calm the mind as well. So two really good times in the day to practice this. And once you're close to mastering it, you can actually use this strategically in stressful situations or before stressful situations. So it's a really good technique for public speaking as well.
I love that. Now, if you could give listeners one daily practice to reconnect with themselves and feel more grounded, what would that be?
Yeah, so you can do the breathing. I mean, that's a really great practice. And then what you can do to feel even more connected is you can open your arms and legs. And Amy Cuddy calls this the power pose. Amy Cuddy is a professor at Harvard University. There's a TED talk of her about power poses. Basically, the way to do it is you have your shoulders away from your ears, and you make your hands further than your shoulders, your legs further than your hips, or your feet, sorry, further than your hips. You make your body big and you look up, smile, do your deep abdominal breathing, and if you can, have some water nearby, have a sip of water, keep it in your mouth. And that is a way to reverse engineer a relaxed but empowered pose. So you're basically using your body to reverse engineer a relaxed state in your nervous system. And then, so Jill, earlier you mentioned that you do journaling. What you can do is you can have a few powerful phrases that you tell yourself about yourself. Whatever that may be, positive thoughts. You can have on your wall pictures that make you happy, memorable moments from the past, or maybe something that you've generated on it using AI about who you want to be in the future. I know people, they've generated their own unicorns, for example, that's something that inspires you. One of my clients, he had a picture of Michael Jordan because he'd watched the Michael Jordan documentary on Netflix and was very inspired by that. Or another client of mine had Queen Elizabeth next to her laptop because she wanted to show up more like Queen Elizabeth. So pictures, smells, songs, items of clothing, anything sensory around you that gives you a feeling of an empowered state, that can be very useful in the morning or any time that you need it during the day.
That's wonderful. Bianca, this was such a powerful conversation. I really appreciate how you've brought together two worlds that don't often intersect and shown that performance, clarity, and success really do start from within. And for all of you listening, I hope this episode gave you new perspective, that your internal state isn't something separate from your results, it's actually driving them. If this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to share it with someone who might need it. And as always, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're on your own healing journey and looking to reconnect with yourself on a deeper level, I'd love to stay connected with you. You can find more resources, meditations, and ways to work with me through the link in my bio. Until next time, keep doing the work, keep trusting yourself, and remember, your power has always been within you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I truly honor you for being here and for choosing to do this deeper work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to stay connected. You can sign up for my newsletter at empoweredbythestorm.com/newsletter. And when you do, you'll receive a free copy of my How to Love Yourself workbook as a thank you. My book, Empowered by the Storm, is also available on Amazon if you'd like to go deeper into this work on your own time. And if you're feeling called to more personal support, you can visit my website to explore private coaching and see if it feels like the right next step for you. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, trust your journey, and remember, your healing matters.